wanted to share with you how I talked myself out of picking up Too Faced's Chocolate Gold Bar Palette. Of course, I'm going to pick it up. I have all the other ones and I do enjoy them. But it was one palette on the market that I kept looking at side by side and I said, no. You're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. And it's the Urban Decay. It's the Urban Decay Heavy Metal palette. Now, this is actually also from their holiday collection. So we've got two holiday palettes neck and neck. Two different brands, two completely different packagings. I mean, you couldn't get apples and oranges right here. With the Too Faced Chocolate Gold Bar, you have a majority of the shades are the metallic formula. With the Urban Decay Heavy Metal, all of the eyeshadows inside the palette are metallic. So that was what I was comparing between the two. And I kept going back and forth. I was going back and forth. Whenever I was in Ulta, I would put both of the compacts together and I just kept going back and forth. The last area would be the actual swatching. So I said I have to take the Chocolate Gold Bar Palette and swatch that shade up against to what shade I feel is the closest in the Urban Decay palette. If I notice that shade is a 100% dupe, okay, I have it already. If it's slightly off, I have to decide which one would I rather wear. Would I rather wear the Too Faced or would I rather wear the Urban Decay version? So that's what I'm thinking in my head. First shade up is the Too Faced Money Bag shade. Now that is a green, forest green shade. It's like what I would consider the Christmas tree shade. So when I'm looking at the Urban Decay palette, the shade that I swatched it up to was Mullet. Right there. Now, mullet is not what I would consider a true like Christmas tree green. Mullet is a darker version of a green. Whereas again, Money Bags has that vibrant, a little bit brighter of a green, like a Christmas, like a fake Christmas tree. That's the color. Fake Christmas tree. I have a fake Christmas tree, so I know that shade fairly well. So I would not state that that shade is 100% dupe. Going down on the Gold Bar palette, next shade up is Love and Cocoa. That shade looks like a russet potato color, like a brownish red. So with that in mind, the color that I felt kind of stood out closest to that would be Rhodey from the Heavy Metal palette. But Rhodey is a darker color. Again, it's not a vibrant color. So what I'm actually thinking in my mind is that the Gold Bar palette probably has more of like a vibrant shade to them. So they might be a little bit lighter in color versus the Urban Decay palette. That was just what I initially thought and what I wrote down in my notes just from those two swatches alone. So again, Love and Cocoa, Mullet, or not Mullet, Rhodey, excuse me, were not a 100% match. The next shade below that is Halle for $1. Now that shade is unique. I thought that that was a unique shade in the Too Faced palette. That is a shade that is almost like it's got three colors in it. It's got like a dark green, it has brown mixed in, and I swear probably black. It's a unique shade that kind of shifts. So I automatically knew I was not going to have a color in the Urban Decay. Like nothing stood out to me that even remotely had those three shades together. However, in my mind, the shade that matched that, now it's not 100% dupe again, and I don't have the palette in the store when I was in Ulta, but in my head, I knew exactly what that shade was. And it's in the Ulta Beauty, her first palette. I have that palette, and it's that shade where you can kind of build it up. You stick your finger in. Well, I stick my finger in and I pat it in. That actually, I can't think of the name right now, like off the top of my head. That color was the reason why I wanted that first palette. So I immediately said, I probably have that shade at home. but again, it kind of caught and registered in my head. I have that shade, but that's exactly what it looks like. Now we move up to the top of the palette, which is chocolate gold. Now that is a strong yellow. I always say like taxi cab, Tweety Bird, strong gold yellow. Now there's two strong yellow shades in here. One is up at the top, which is Glory, but there's also this one down here, which is called Twisted, and Twisted is actually that vibrant gold, that Tweety Bird shade. So I felt that chocolate gold matches very close enough, if not the same color, to Twisted. So I felt, okay, I have those as far as a dupe. The next shade is Old Money. I feel that Old Money is closest to Starfire. Where are you? Right there in the Urban Decay palette. Now, Starfire and Old Money match because they both have like orange, gold, brown in it. However, in the Too Faced palette, the Old Money is, I feel it has a lot more orange in it. So it's a little bit more, I would say, darker. Whereas in the Urban Decay, I feel it's a little bit more brown based. So they're very similar, but they're not 100% match. I'm fine using actually any one, but again, to me, it's not 100%. The next shade is Gold Dipped. Now, Gold Dip is another shade where I felt it was another unique shade with the Gold Bar palette. It's another shade that has several, I would say several colors mixed in. I haven't really seen a shade that looks like this. I haven't yet. And the one I thought that was closest to Gold Dip is Maiden. So Maiden, it shares kind of similar light properties that is in the Gold Dipped. However, Gold Dip, again, looks so unique on the eye. It's almost like a rose gold shade, but it has, I would say, more silver in it and white. I can't even describe it. It's still a unique shade. It's a unique shade to the Too Faced palette, so I wasn't able to really find 100% or very close in a dupe with that shade. Next up is New Money. That is a hot fuchsia pink shade. Now, right off the bat, looking at the Urban Decay, there isn't a shade that is directly in correlation to that shade. I would say if you wanted to look at punk rock, of course, is much darker in color, but it does have like similar tones to it. Again, it's going to be more, I would say, a red base, a raspberry base shade, punk rock, versus that pink base shade with New Money. Below New Money is Livin' Lavish, and Livin' Lavish is a dark purple in the Gold Bar palette. So looking at the Heavy Metal palette, I'm looking at Spandex. That would be, I would say, the closest shade to that. Spandex has, I would say, like a flecks of light pink in it, which is also what Livin' Large, to me, Livin' Large had the same color properties as well. Going to the top of the Too Faced Gold Bar is Rich Girl. Now, Rich Girl is, it's like a shade that when you first look at Rich Girl, I'm thinking it's like a silver, but it's almost borderline white, like an icy, pure white. I'm looking on the Urban Decay Heavy Metal. The one I would pick that would go the closest to that, again, it's not 100% dupe because it's not, I would say, a white base shade, and it would be Aluminum. I would go with Aluminum more because I felt that Glam Rock matches closest to another shade, which is probably what you first looked at too. If you look at the Urban Decay, you're thinking Glam Rock probably goes with Rich Girl, but I didn't feel it did. Nothing really similar to Rich Girl. It is, I would say, a color that is pretty unique to the Gold Bar palette. Next up in the Gold Bar palette is Famous. Famous, I would say, is that traditional gold, holiday gold shade. It's just the basic gold, like Christmas ornament gold. So I would pick Glory. That was the shade that I felt was the closest to it. This shade is in practically every warm-based palette that if it has a metallic in there, it's pretty much in a lot of our palettes. I would say you already have it. I know I have. Below that is Dripping Diamonds. So that's the shade I would closely say is Glam Rock in Urban Decay Heavy Metal. That's the one I feel is the closest. That traditional silver Christmas silver, holiday silver color. Those two match. I feel 100% of a dupe. Before I get to the matte shades, we have the last metallic in the Gold Bar palette, and that is Classy and Sassy. Now, this is the shade that I felt kind of overlapped with the other, like a red-based cranberry shade, which is at the beginning of the Gold Bar palette. That's the Love and Cocoa. So I kind of thought those were too similar. One seems to be a little bit darker than the other, but they're so similar. I would have preferred one to be in there, and then they got rid of the other shade. Being the fact that it's that wine-based raspberry shade, I'm once again looking at Rhody if I wanted something that would be the closest match. But I'm also looking at Punk Rock again, because Punk Rock, I feel, in the Urban Decay palette has that wine-based tone as well, except Punk Rock has more of a red base shade to it, and Rhody has more of a brown base to it. What I would have liked to have seen in the Gold Bar palette is if they had took out either Classy and Sassy or the other shade at the beginning of the palette and put in that holiday red metallic. That would have been great, because that would have actually have matched up to After Party in the Urban Decay. Now, I am a huge red lover when it comes to eyeshadow. Red makeup in general, I really love. So of course, I'm very happy to know that there is a beautiful red metallic in the Urban Decay. The last shades to compare in the Too Faced Gold Bar palette are the matte shades, and there are 4 matte shades, and here is where I feel that they overlap. I have the semi-sweet chocolate bar palette. Now, when I'm looking at Cocoa Truffle to me looks like truffled that is in this palette. Cocoa Truffle in the Gold Bar palette is a little bit darker, but not only do I have that color already in a single pan or in my other eyeshadow palettes, again, I feel it's very close to truffled in the semi-sweet. Across from Truffle is Decadent, which is just your basic matte black. Of course, we have that in Licorice and the semi-sweet. So here's a little bit of a pattern. I feel I already have that. Below Decadent is So Bougie. That is just what I would consider that light to medium cocoa brown. To me, I think is the exact same color as Mousse that's in the semi-sweet. Plus, a lot of us already have that color in all of our other neutral base palettes, whether we have it in a palette or we have an eyeshadow palette. I know I have already that color 10 times over. Then the last shade is Rolling in Dough. So that's that shade I would consider as my brow bone highlight. It's that off-white eggshell shade. That matches 100% to Coconut Cream. That is also a shade that tends to be in a lot of the bar palettes. Just looking at the 4 mattes, those are easily duped, not only in their other palettes, chocolate bar palettes, but like I mentioned, we already probably have those shades already. Again, I know I already do. It took like that visual for me to realize that I feel I already have these shades in my existing palette here, in the Heavy Metal palette, but also those shades that I would consider are the unique shades to the Gold Bar. They're not so unique to me where I'm like, oh, I gotta run out and get it. 100%, I would have leaned towards the Urban Decay. Based on the fact is I get more shadows. That would have been my first thing. I get more shadows in here versus in the Gold Bar palette with Too Faced. The fact that those mattes are in there, I don't want the mattes in there, to be honest. I would have probably have just preferred it to be an all metallic palette. Then it would have brought it up a little bit more, and I could compare it even stronger towards the Heavy Metal. But with those mattes included, see, you brought it down because I already have those. So I'm thinking, okay, another point knocked off. Also, when I'm looking at my palettes in general, I have overall more Urban Decay palettes than I do of all my Too Faced. So I am drawn towards Urban Decay's palettes. I'm drawn to their eyeshadows. I'm drawn to their formulas. If you happen to see it in your Sephora's, they're $27, but they are available for purchase on Urban Decay's website right now, probably until, you know, they're all sold out. Again, they're at 36% savings. Again, a pro member, if you're a professional artist, we already get these at 40% off. So as a consumer, you are getting straight up close towards a pro price. That is when you need to jump on it as far as is it something you really want? So just again, want to throw that out there. I don't believe I mentioned the price for the Too Faced Gold Bar palette. That is $49 and it is not on sale. So it's going to be a decision for you. This is just a comparison as far as swatches and color wise and how I talked myself out of it, but it's going to be a comparison with you. It will be which formulas do you like better? Urban Decay's, Too Faced, your budget. Hopefully I've given you a little bit more insight and some suggestions, maybe something to think about as far as which one you might want to pick up. If you've already picked up either one of these palettes, have you been kind of comparing them as well? Love to know your thoughts about the swatches that you've seen and anything else you would like to discuss in the comments. Thank you very much for stopping by and watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you happen to be watching me. And as always, I'm going to see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.